My Blood is about self-harm, which is the following track from What a Devastating Turn of Events. When I'd get really stressed out, I'd get really sick, I'd pull my hair out. It was just something I used to do, but I'd always cover it up by like putting eyeshadow in my hair or having weaves or having wigs on. I couldn't really understand what the feeling was, but it's kind of like I liked the feeling but hated it at the same time. It's kind of that internal battle of you're going through self-harm, which is painful when you see the end results of it. And, you know, seeing myself with patches in my hair, it made me feel so self-conscious, and I hated myself in many ways. But then when I would do it, it felt really safe and felt quite nice, even though it is actually quite painful. And, you know, people harm themselves in many different ways, and it's just kind of that moment where you kind of look at yourself and you're like, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? And almost calling yourself out for what you're doing.
It's my blood on the broken door. It's my blood in the makeup drawer. It's my blood that I do this for.
Especially when I was younger, if I didn't like something, I'd always cover it something or try and cover how I feel. Or if I felt sad, I'd cover it up by being like, I'm fine. Or if I didn't like how I look, I'd cover it with makeup and hope I'd get compliments. And I think there's an element of when you go through anything in life, you always cover up. It's almost like this tainted thing of, you know, makeup is so fun and beautiful to play with when you're in a good place. But if you feel terrible about yourself and you start doing makeup, it's sometimes one of like the hardest things that you can do. So I thought it's kind of like poetically quite a beautiful contrast between the two, because it can be such a great tool for one thing, but it could also be your enemy in another way.
The longer I try to leave it, the more I forgive the feeling. What do I do when they comes at a price I can't afford?
I wrote that in Hereford with APOB, Mary and Glenn. That trip came just after my LA trip, when it kind of hit its worst points then. And to be able to sit with 3 people who didn't really know the ins and outs of what was going on, but explain to them how I was feeling in an environment where I actually felt incredibly peaceful and unjudged, was a really therapeutic but beautiful thing to go through, and they were all able to help me translate it into song. It was very therapeutic writing that one, and hearing it back makes me understand myself more and my thought processes more.
It's my blood. Oh, my blood.
When you say as my blood, as in my family, it's interesting because so much of my trauma has come, I wouldn't say directly from my direct family, but it's a lot to be around and discover yourself in an environment where there's so many people. I think self-harm comes from giving yourself a lot of pressure to be something. My blood being seen as my family, it's almost like I need to be good enough for them.